On this episode of the show, we are talking about several different things. A lot of phrases, buzzwords that come up in the fitness and nutrition industry that I'm sure you've heard of. You may not know the difference between, and you don't know whether you should be doing them, shouldn't be doing them, and if you should, when the fuck you should be doing them. So let's talk about cheat days, refeeds, and diet breaks. These are the things that come up time and time again. Either something you should be doing on a regular basis, maybe something you should do to break through a fat loss plateau, and all various different sorts of ramifications, rules, guidelines, and kind of really all sent to confuse you a little bit more. So let's break down all of this sort of stuff. Let's get into the detail and let's start talking about what all this sort of shit means and whether you should be doing it or shouldn't be doing it. Now, first off, I want to talk about cheat days. Now, cheat days really should not be in existence. Now, let me explain why. Now, a cheat day, as I would define it, is kind of this thought process where you've been dieting for a period of time, where you feel like you've earned the right to go balls out because basically you've been eating clean, quote unquote, for X amount of time, whether that's the last 5 or 6 days. And now you're saying, well, okay, I've earned the right to go balls out, have a cheat day, have what the fuck I want, all the calories, give me all the food, let me drown in burgers, pizza, Coke, all of that sort of stuff, ice cream, donuts, whatever it is that floats your boat from that point of view is basically just where you can say, fuck it, let me loose, motherfucker. And that's exactly what you do. You go balls deep on going into this cheat day. Now, it's this concept where you can have all these extra calories and it's going to give you this metabolic boost. It's going to boost your metabolism because you've been dieting, so your metabolism is being pushed through the floor while you're eating clean in a deficit. But this cheat meal is just going to reignite things. It's going to help you push forward, all this sort of stuff. It's absolute fucking horseshit. Now, a cheat day in and of itself, just that particular word, cheat day. Now, you shouldn't ever feel like you are cheating on your diet. If you are cheating on your diet, then you have fucked up from the start because that is not how dieting should be. It is not this case that these lists of food are inherently bad and you can never have them and therefore you can only have them when you are cheating. Then that is the worst way to start thinking about food. It's going to create this poor relationship with food. Is going to help you see certain foods as good and bad and really kind of tie you up in knots further down the line. Also, that whole process of a cheat day can literally fuck up your entire week's worth of progress. Now, if you go balls deep into your cheat day, let's say, and you're having breakfast, lunch, dinner, or all fucking cheats, then you can bust 5,000-6,000 calories in one fucking day quite fucking easily. Now, then you just have to think about, if I'm doing 5,000 or 6,000 calories in one day, how much deficit did I create in the prior 6 days? Now, it might be a case that you did 500 calories per day, then you've got like 3,000 calories built up over 6 days. You go 5,000 calories, you've pretty much wiped all of that out. So therefore, all of that progress that you made has just been wiped out by your fucking cheat day. Now, that's when people start to think, well, you know, a month in, 2 months in, why the hell am I not making any progress? Well, it's because you're sticking to your diet for 5 or 6 days and then absolutely tearing it to shreds and fucking it right up with your cheat day approach. So cheat days should really kind of be banished. They're not for anybody. It's not a case of good foods and bad foods. And it is certainly not the case that you should be doing these cheat days for metabolic advantage because it just doesn't exist like that. And also you are really in danger of fucking up your entire calorie deficit that you've worked so hard to create. So please, 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 if you are listening to this, do not go down the route of cheat days. It is not a fucking thing that you should be doing. Now, that then leads us on to refeeds, which have kind of come along as a replacement for cheat days in the sense that you're gonna maybe eat what the fuck you like, but you're still gonna put a calorie cap on it. And you're going to do that for 24 hours. So that 1 day of refeed is going to boost your metabolism. It's going to allow you to eat more of the foods that you class as maybe slightly more indulgent, maybe more calorie dense. You don't necessarily class them as cheats, but they are certainly foods that you maybe would struggle to keep in your diet on a daily basis. So you feel like, okay, I'm going to increase calories up to maybe maintenance or a slight surplus potentially for that 1 day to get some metabolic advantage from that and to eat the foods that I enjoy. Now, the process of a 24-hour refeed does fuck all for your metabolism. So let's get that one out of the way. Just the same as a cheat day does not do that either. Neither does a refeed day. A 24-hour refeed does not reset your hormones. It does not boost your metabolism. You really need to go on a refeed for plus 3 days. That would be kind of the area of time that you need to work in to actually get some metabolic advantage from doing that refeed. And I'll come on how to do a refeed properly in a second. However, a 24-hour refeed, if it doesn't have any advantage from a metabolic point of view, not from a hormone point of view, not from a physiological point of view, it might have a benefit in terms of like mentally, what's going on between your fucking ears. Because it can be a very difficult process going through a calorie deficit. It can be a very difficult process to keep continuously dieting week after week, month after month. So having these kind of little refeeds could be a way for you just to take a mental break for a day. Now, if you are controlling calories on that 24-hour day, then there potentially is no detrimental impact to your fat loss progress. So if you just take your calories up to maintenance for that 1 day, just so that you can say, okay, well, I can have maybe 500 calories more than I'm having, which is gonna be equivalent to maybe another meal, so you can maybe have a more indulgent dinner meal with your family or something like that. If that just helps take the pressure off you and helps you to adhere to your deficit for the long term, that can be an advantageous thing. Now you could call that like a 1 day diet break or something like that. You could call it a refeed, but whatever you want to fucking call it, then that doesn't really matter. So I would use these 24-hour periods. If that's something you feel like you need, I would use that as a way to monitor calories still, but slightly have more of the foods that you feel more indulgent, and maybe that gives you a bit of more a relaxed approach to your dieting process, and then prevents you from maybe going into like binge eating phase and maybe going into treat meals and treat days and all that sort of stuff and all of that sort of stuff. So that's how I would think about it. But expect some weight gain. So even though you're at maintenance, so at maintenance you are neither gaining body fat nor losing body fat, but you are potentially, depending on food choices and things like that, going to see a scale weight increase because of maybe replenishing some glycogen, so the energy within your muscles and in your liver and things like that. And that's going to bring with it some water. So expect a water weight increase. It's not necessarily going to be body fat if you've managed those calories, but do expect that. Now, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that a refeed, in terms of if you want to get any metabolic benefit from it, you're going to have to do more than 3 days. So 3, 5, 7 days, something like that of a refeed is where you're going to have to kind of be in order to do it properly. And if you're really kind of taking it quite seriously, maybe you're going to have to be a little bit more strict in what you have in order to get the most amount of benefit from it. Now, if you're just maybe the casual dieter and things like that, then possibly maybe don't worry about this too much. But if you really kind of want to focus in on optimizing your progress and saying, okay, well, I'm going to get the most out of this refeed that I can, then you're going to want to put into some kind of rules into place. So essentially you want to take your calories up to maintenance or maybe even into a slight surplus, and a very, very minimal surplus at that. You want to keep your protein intake kind of where it is right now. There's no need to have more protein, probably don't want to have less. So you just want to keep protein exactly where it is right now. Now, the thing you want to do focus on is your ratio between carbs and fat. So you want to really kind of limit the amount of fat that you're having. So really under 15% of your total calorie intake would come from fat. And therefore you start to then increase carbs as a virtue of that. Now, when you then start thinking about that practically, then you really have to focusing on what you're eating. And it kind of really takes away from that process of having whatever the fuck you want, because if you're trying to get less than 15% of your calories from fat, you really have to focus in on, okay, what protein choices am I making? So they're lowering fat. What carbohydrate choices am I making? So they're lowering fat too. So for example, oats have fat in them. Now, again, if you're trying to limit the amount of fat you're having, you might want to switch carbohydrate choices so that they are very high in carbohydrate and minimal in any other macronutrient. So like a white rice or something like that is going to be a more advantageous choice for you to have rather than oats. And this basically, the process you're going through is going to help minimize any fat gain that you might get whilst you're going through this process of this refeed. So if you're putting your calories into a surplus, then if you're minimizing the fat content of your diet, you're jacking up carbohydrates, you really are going to limit the amount of fat that you're going to gain during this process. And this is why it's going to be a little bit more scientific. It needs to be a little bit more thought through if you really want to optimize what you're doing from a nutrition perspective to get the most amount of benefit from your refeed. Then also there is some evidence to suggest that, you know, having carbohydrates as part of this sort of refeed process helps with management of hunger issues. So if you're feeling really, really hungry, having that carbohydrate in this refeed environment can potentially help with those hunger issues. So that's really how you do a refeed properly. It's over 3 days. It's focusing really more on carbohydrates, limiting fat, probably into a slight surplus as well, and kind of doing it for 3, 5, 7 days maybe. Now that then moves me on to a diet break. So a diet break for me is probably something slightly longer than that 3, 5, 7 day refeed process. It's where you're taking, mainly for, I would say, for psychological, mental reasons, a break from dieting. But there also probably is going to be some physiological benefits that come along with that as well. So for me, a diet break lasts anywhere between a week, maybe 2 weeks, and a month or something like that. Or it could be even longer than a month. It could be like, you know, perpetually on a diet break but then you kind of say, well, I'm just eating at maintenance rather than a diet break. But a diet break is useful when fat loss has plateaued. So you've kind of gone that point where maybe you've been dieting for a period of time, maybe metabolic adaptations, adaptive thermogenesis, which we've talked about in previous podcasts, has taken effect, and basically increasing calories burnt or decreasing calories in is kind of becoming impractical. You maybe want to then take a diet break, which is this more extended break from dieting. Give yourself a rest from, you know, trying to diet, the mental, you know, fatigue that you get from that process, taking yourself up to maintenance calories, maintaining your protein, but kind of like more eating what you want. Again, helps you to kind of reset mentally from this process, but also you're going to potentially get, you know, a little bit of a reset from that metabolic adaptation is going to work itself out, and you're going to kind of get back to where you were. And therefore, don't worry too much about putting on fat, all that sort of stuff, because you are going to control things at maintenance. You could also use it as a period where you kind of figure out how you're going to approach dieting after you've reached your goal weight or your goal look. So again, you can start thinking about maybe you want to track a little bit less. Maybe you just want to track on certain days of the week so that you can kind of teach yourself how to get out of this dieting process. Because let's face it, when you get to that target weight, that target look that you want to achieve, you don't want to be at that stage where actually now I'm afraid to eat more. I'm afraid to go to maintenance because I don't want to undo all the good work that I've done. So this diet break process is like a small way where over 2 to 4 weeks, you can teach yourself that, okay, I can eat without tracking so much. And look, I didn't put on a shit ton of body fat. Actually, I kind of stayed the same. And you're proving to yourself that you can do that. So for me, a diet break has some advantages. And again, for me, it's really focusing on refeeds for the right reasons in the right way, and diet breaks for the right reasons in the right way. That are the things that you should be focusing on. Cheat days, fuck that shit. Do not go down the route of cheat days. So hopefully this gave you a little bit of clarity on what the difference is between a refeed, or what the difference is between a cheat day and a diet break. So let's recap. Basically, a cheat day should not be even thought about. There's no metabolic advantage from these cheat days. The only thing a cheat day is probably going to do is give you a shit relationship with food in general and fuck up your calorie deficit. So really ditch the cheat days once and for all. If you want to do a refeed, it's got to be over a 3-day period if you do want to get some metabolic advantage from it. You could do it for 24 hours if you just want to control your calorie intake but have a bit more relaxed approach to some of the more indulgent food that you want to have. Absolutely go do that. Maybe give yourself a mental break from the whole experience of dieting. If you do want to do a refeed, it's going to be like 3, 5, 7 days, something like that, where you control calories, probably in a slight surplus, where you maintain your protein, keep fat below 15% of total calorie intake, and really focus in on carbohydrate. If you are kind of completely plateaued, you can't really logically take out any more calories from your diet because you're going to chew your own fucking arm off, and you can't really increase calories burnt because that's just not practical, maybe a diet break for anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks or more is probably where you want to go down. So take your calories up to maintenance and potentially use it as a period where you can practice how you're going to actually live after you've achieved your weight. So they were the things that I would be focusing on, the times and the places to use each one of those different things. But fuck cheat days is what I would leave you with right here, right now. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the show. If you did, come let me know on Instagram at iron_paradise_fitness. And also, if you want more information about online coaching with Iron Paradise Fitness, i.e. me, then click the link in the notes, ironparadisefitness.com, and you can go and check out all of that sort of stuff. And you can download a load of free stuff, which will help you in terms of training, fat loss, building muscle, all of that sort of good shit. It's all free. Go check it out. Why wouldn't you? But for now, all I'm going to say is thanks so much for listening. Keep living the lean life, and I'll see you for the next episode of the show.